It's Tuesday, March the 14th, 2017, and this is your Barbados Today evening update. I'm Emmanuel Joseph. Thanks for joining us. Topping the news at this hour, embattled president of the National Union of Public Workers, Akani McDowell, has sued the Public Service Commission. McDowell and his attorney, Gregory Nichols, appeared before Justice William Chandler today, challenging the Commission's decision in October last year to remove him from an acting senior post within the government service and reverting him to his junior substantive position of Environmental Health Assistant 1. The case, which was filed back in February, went before Justice Chandler in the No. 10 Supreme Court at around 10:36 this morning. An hour later, McDowell and his attorney emerged, but told reporters that nothing had happened yet because the matter was in the very preliminary stages.
I mean, my senior advisors in the profession tell me I'm talking to you all too much. Like, let me talk inside the court. Yeah, but his matter is before the court, and the matter in which his temporary appointment was terminated and how they purported to fill the post. So that is what's being challenged before.
Meanwhile, McDowell, who is scheduled to return to court on March the 31st, said the NUPW's National Council would issue a formal statement on his matter in the coming days. A government warning to employers who break the Safety and Health at Work law. Addressing the National Advisory Committee on Occupational Safety and Health at the Warren's Office complex this afternoon, Minister of Labour Dr. Esther Bayasoku put non-compliant employers on notice that state inspectors are coming to get them.
And we are certainly looking internally at how we can ensure that the law is upheld. I know that there are still people in Barbados who believe that if they're not caught, they're not really breaking the law. And especially when it comes to labor legislation, I do realize that there are some folks who expect that they can wing it because nobody is going to get to them anytime soon. And we've been discussing internally how we can best use our resources so that we can disabuse persons, especially offenders, of that particular notion. Folks must know that we didn't go through all of the trouble of passing legislation, and as you know, the process of preparing legislation is one that is a very lengthy one, and it takes a lot of time on individuals as well because of our tripartite arrangement.
Now to the ongoing estimates debate in Parliament today. In making his contribution, former Prime Minister Owen Arthur said Barbados cannot recover without the help of the international financial community, and he is advising government to head to the IMF. The noted economist suggested that it would be a massive undertaking for Barbados to significantly reduce its $3 billion debt refinancing requirement in a short time.
But when I hear about all the things that we need to do, I say to Parliament that Barbados cannot turn its back on having its debt restructured under a fund program. It cannot turn its back on having many of these other things that need credibility done under a fund program. It cannot turn its back under the $750 million that it can borrow from the fund at 1%, nor, if the House is not aware, that there are things called policy-based loans for which Barbados can be eligible from the IDB and the CDB that can help us to restructure this, where we don't have money, that can only be accessed if the country has a program in place with the International Monetary Fund. And so it's not going to be easy. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy can come in the morning.
The former Prime Minister also insisted that Barbados must have an honest debate about privatization. He argued that privatization must be a part of any economic recovery plan and encouraged the administration to set out clear objectives to benefit citizens.
Sir, entities in this country that have to be privatized will be here. And privatization simply means that things that can be in the private sector and can function in the private sector, let them function in the private sector, where we can use them to reduce government's losses, government's transfers, let us do so. But all I am saying to the House, that if we have to privatize, two conditions will attach, where I'm concerned. That we use the proceeds to help work down the debt, that it says is going to reach $3 billion in a few years, and that we use privatization as a means of bringing people into the ownership of entities in this country that let there be shareholder options so that people go to work in this country not just to earn a wage, but also in the expectation to be able to earn a dividend.
Meanwhile, opposition MP Dwight Sutherland has accused the government of continuing to suffer from inertia, apathy, and laziness, particularly in the energy sector. The parliamentary representative for St. George South noted that while some work had been done in renewable energy, the Friendly Stewart administration was lagging as the oil import bill remained unacceptably high. Sutherland then took a turn in the state-owned Barbados National Oil Company, otherwise known as BNOC, for failing to lead in the renewable energy initiatives.
BNOC, government, who has failed to invest in renewable energy. They're still focusing on crude, and if I have the time, I will speak to this because no work has been done for the past 8 years in the offshore or the onshore drilling sector in this Ministry of Energy. BNOC should see themselves as an energy company and take the lead, not give the lead to Light and Power through Emira. BNOC should take the lead. They should see themselves as an energy company and not a hydrocarbon company. BNOC should have been the leader in wind energy development in this country. Wind energy is the cheapest source of renewable energy, cheaper than biomass.
The National Assistance Board has come to the rescue of 74-year-old Lionel Innes, who has been living in deplorable conditions for the last 3 years. The NAB, headed by Senator David Durant, was called in this week by concerned neighbors after Innes' living conditions worsened when the already dilapidated house collapsed at Fustic Village, St. Lucie. They said at the time of the collapse he was at the QEH seeking medical attention after he fell ill. Late this afternoon, Senator Durant reported to Barbados Today that the elderly man was relocated to a temporary home and would be transferred to the geriatric hospital in a few days. In sport, now after serving 7 years in prison for killing his ex-girlfriend and feeding her to the dogs, Brazilian goalkeeper Bruno Fernandes de Souza is controversially back in the game, signed by Boa Esporte for 2 years. Fans and sponsors of the Brazilian second division side quickly denounced the move, but so far, Boa Esporte isn't backing down. In the last few days, Boa Esporte lost several of its sponsors, including their main sponsor, Góis and Silver Group, as well as the athletic equipment provider, Canja.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Get your paper, get your paper. Only $2.25, $2.20. Who? For what? That's the Bear Stare News. I don't read about that on Barbados Today since last night. That can't only can't do. $2.20. Who?
The Barbados Today, news you can trust.
We're back with news from the region now. The Trinidad and Tobago state-owned Caribbean Airlines has cancelled 10 of its flights both ways between Port of Spain and New York, and Guyana and Jamaica and New York. The airline announced today that the flights would be grounded between now and tomorrow due to adverse weather conditions in the New York area. Passengers booked and ticketed on these dates will be permitted to make changes to their reservations without penalty, subject to special conditions. Meanwhile, on the international scene, a late-season storm has grounded more than 6,000 flights and paralyzed much of the East Coast corridor between Washington, D.C. and Boston. More than 180,000 people have been left without power from Virginia northwards as the storm brought more than a foot of snow in some places, closing schools and triggering safety warnings.
Plows clearing streets across the northeastern United States Tuesday after a winter storm dumped snow from Virginia to Massachusetts. I'm Zach Goldman for Reuters in New York. The city actually missed the brunt of the bad weather. What was a blizzard warning downgraded to a winter weather advisory. Still pretty disruptive here, though. The city closed all public schools. This is the largest school district in the country, and large sections of the subway are still not functioning. The city is expected to get between 4 and 8 inches of snow. That's much less than the 2 feet that was predicted, but you can see it's still coming down. Air travel across the region on hold with more than 5,500 flights canceled. In Connecticut, a statewide travel ban still in effect as of Tuesday morning. Parts of that state bracing for up to 18 inches of snow. A 9-car pileup was reported on the I-95 near Fairfield. Boston bracing for more than a foot of snow. Washington, D.C., a city notorious for functioning badly even with small amounts of bad weather, expected up to 5 inches.
And that's news and sports, but for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. Also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, and like us on Facebook. We are also on Izumi Media in bus terminals or screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you, as well as Channel 99 on Flow TV and Mix 96.9 FM. I'm Emmanuel Joseph. Have a fantastic evening.